Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. This is James in Nashville, and let's talk about the Bloodpath Diary, the three-part little series that I did on the channel, a The Walking Dead fan fiction event. So it's a story built in the Walking Dead universe, and let's break down the video, the story, talk about it, and how I did it, and some details. So let's jump in. As far as the story goes, this is a little bit darker story. Overall, if the whole story plays out, it would be a little darker, and there's a lot of dark things that happen in The Walking Dead, so I'm not sure how much darker, but just a tad maybe. Our characters, David and Emily, are in Chicago. David is just about to finish college when the zombie apocalypse happens. So David's dad, mom and dad, that's Dr. Jenner from the first season. So David Jenner is Edwin Jenner's son. That's the made-up story that is the fan fiction. So remember when Dr. Jenner brought Rick and the gang into the CDC in season 1? They got into the elevator and he did a little thing toward Carl. We had Sophia in there as well, and I'm sure he didn't mean really anything by it by pointing out Carl or making that little joke toward him, but I kind of took that and said, he looked at Carl thinking about his son and that he would probably never see him again, and that was just a little moment.
But you look harmless enough. Except you. I'll have to keep my eye on you.
So we do hear about the Jenners in this story and the CDC a little bit. The big kicker to it all is that Dr. Jenner from the CDC sent his son David a lot of the information and studies they were doing about the virus, so his son, who he knows is about to graduate the university and is very, very, very gifted, very smart, might throw some insight into it. So he is pumping as much information as he can to his son, who's putting it on a thumb drive, and once they head out of Chicago, he has that information. So where could David's story ultimately go? A very, very smart dude with some information from the early days from the CDC. You know, how could that tie into any of the Walking Dead future story? There's a lot of stuff that could happen and how it could play out. But as far as the overall story that I did in the videos, I put it in diary form like it was Emily's diary. And if you notice, I started with August 20th. David and I made it out of the city. So this is already in the zombie apocalypse. We open up into the zombie apocalypse. And as we go to part 2, you see it starts with August 15th. And August 15th being day 1. You know, day 1 in The Walking Dead, we would say, is the day Rick got shot. So day 1 in my little story, I made it August 15th, 2010. That would be the same day Rick got shot, and it's the same day that David and Emily are packing up, trying to get out of their apartment out of Chicago. So we jump back in time a little bit. I hope that didn't confuse you guys. I hope you noticed that's what was happening and you paid attention to the dates, because then in part 3, day 1 being the 15th, we go through the 15th, 16th, and 17th in part 2. We go through August 18th and 19th in part 3. And then, of course, the story starts at August 20th in part 1. So there's a little back and forth there, but I hope you kind of got that around in your head as you watched it. So a lot of things going on. As far as the military, the diary, writing it this way, you couldn't really put in just tons of details, tons of information. So looking at it just, and what Emily says at the end, they were all soldiers. I wish they could die. I wish they would die. So going forward after this point, after part 3, Emily will have kind of a phobia toward the military, toward the government, toward men in general. But of course, she still loves David. David's her partner. She's not mad at him or anything like that. But just a general, I hate men, and I'm kind of scared of anybody in a uniform. But don't take this as this huge group of like 100 men that were pretty much all military that's being led by this crazy colonel guy. Don't take that as all of them were bad, the military's bad, you know, and that kind of thing. It's not that at all. This is just a very small handful of soldiers that are kind of in charge of taking care of the prisoners, and 2 or 3 of those will watch out for each other when they want to go do something bad, like rape one of the women. So yeah, it's not the entire military is bad and soldiers are bad. As far as the raping and torturing goes, that's just a little handful of people, if you knew the whole story, if that's how it played out. But also the rogue colonel and stuff, all these men kind of going rogue as well, that's just somebody like that rogue colonel is a manipulator. He's like a governor, you know. He's just a leader type person that can get people to follow him. And that's just what happened. It's the zombie apocalypse. There's some brainwashed people. You know, they don't have any other choice but maybe go into the wild or follow this guy. There's a lot to it, a lot of details to all of this, but it definitely doesn't. My intention was not to put a bad light on soldiers or the military, not at all. So I know it kind of looks that way because we're just taking it from Emily and David's point of view, right? But overall, there's much more to that story, and much more details that you just can't see. So it goes back to the thing about David rescuing Emily off the bus and him killing a guy. So Emily didn't see the dead body or him killing a guy, so she don't necessarily know. But say this was a TV show, you could easily cut in a shot where as they're getting off the bus or running away, she looks down and sees the face of the man that David killed, and it was the guy who raped her. So she doesn't know that. David doesn't know that that's the man that raped her. But in my mind, the guy David killed getting to the bus and getting Emily out of there is the same guy that actually raped her. The little part about the SUVs and the congressman from Indiana, it says it looked like an ambush and a firefight and stuff like that. If you put two and two together, you can point that toward the colonel's group or a little faction thereof. And of course, you guys can ask any questions, or I can go into a little more details on anything if you want to ask a question about it. The September 7th entry, the last entry when Emily returns, she's just mad. She's mad at the world. She just got raped, tortured, kidnapped. All these things just happen in a very short time, mind you. So she's got some emotions inside her. So, the rape, the torture, she doesn't want to think about it, but what she can say going forward, she's not going to fear. So she's not going to be the person that she was, because she knows this world's different. It's changed now. I've changed. Things that's happened to me has changed me and every fiber in my body. So I'm not going to fear anymore. I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to have any regrets. The old world's gone. So is the old Emily. So when I came up with the idea of the blood path, and David, of course, was the first character, hey, we can have Jenner's son. Well, he could have a girlfriend, So my idea for Emily all along has been, she's just not really fragile necessarily. Maybe she worked out at the gym and stuff, and she's athletic, but she wasn't a zombie apocalyptic warrior, right? She's just a normal person like everybody. Like Michonne was, and Michonne become a warrior. Like Rosita learned all kinds of tricks of the trade, fighting explosives, guns. She became a warrior. I see that as Emily as well. The things that she goes through makes her stronger. And as the story continues, there's a time frame of time that she's able to learn how to use weapons and do things. So she really does become a warrior. That was my idea all along for Emily, is to gradually have her become a warrior, and fairly badass warrior. I guess that's a spoiler alert going forward if we ever do any more stories. So as far as that goes, this was just planned to be a three-part event, three-part series of video with 3 parts. The September 7th entry being the last one. So to go forward, there's options. We could continue taking the story forward, but I'm going to get into how I made the video, and it'll tell you about the voiceover actors, and which I think did a phenomenal job. And these two people were not even in the same place at all, may not even be in the same country. I'm not sure exactly where they are. So not to even know each other, they did pretty good, and the story came together well. I thought it fit together well. I had started this trying to do an actual live action show, but all I got out of it was a trailer. I'll link to that down in the description if you guys missed it or you guys want to see it again, the live action trailer for the Blood Path that I made. But I was trying to shoot a entire first episode when I shot that trailer. So I pulled the footage to make a little trailer. That's hard to do, get actors together. And I didn't have any help really, and not a lot of money. It still cost me a couple $1,000 trying what I tried to do that failed. All I got was a little trailer from it that sure doesn't look like it cost a couple $1,000. So I lost money, I lost time, effort, other people involved. It's very hard to get all of that together and to keep it professional. I don't have enough, just a little group of friends that can act and do voiceover work and stuff. I don't have all of that. So the live action thing didn't work out. So it eventually just came down to doing it this way, to give you guys the story in this little diary form, something I could do. As far as how I made this, I hired a couple of voiceover actors. They were not friends, they were not family, they were real voiceover actors that I paid. So the total cost to make these 3 videos was around $400. I'll show you a plugin that I bought for After Effects to do the writing on the screen. That costs a little bit of money, and paying the 2 voice actors. And as far as going forward, telling more of the story, I did think, maybe we can do a Patreon or a GoFundMe or something, and we can raise $400 or a little less. It may not take as much, since I've already bought that plugin, I won't have to buy it again. But there's one other big thing to it all. This is The Walking Dead fan fiction story. I can do reviews on The Walking Dead all day long, and as long as I don't use too much of their copyrighted content, like, 5 minutes of video or something, I won't get a copyright flag, and that's allowable. They do that. YouTube allows it. The Walking Dead allows it. It's kind of like being a news channel or something. But when you start throwing copyrighted stuff out, as far as very long clips from the show and stuff like that, you get flagged and you can't monetize that. Same way with fan fiction. But if I take even creating a character like David Jenner from Edwin Jenner from season 1, I'm actually reaching into the story. I'm actually taking the story, a copyrighted story, and making something of it. Thus, I can't monetize the video. So these videos, they may not get a lot of views, but I can't monetize them. So the $400 I spend or whatever, it's for you guys. I'm reaching 100,000 subscribers. I may or may not get there, but even getting this close is amazing. And I thank you very much. It's just amazing. So thank you. Here's the Bloodpath story. It cost me money. I won't be able to get that back, but it's for you guys. It's for the fans. Here you go. That's why I say we could do a GoFundMe or something like that to raise $400 if we wanted to keep the story going. But it is very difficult to make. It takes a lot of hours, more than I thought. I thought I could find a plugin that writes on the screen in paragraphs, but every one of them that I found only writes on the screen 1 line at a time. So I had to build each diary entry 1 line at a time, and the export was, if not 1 hour, sometimes 2 hours each diary entry. So I easily spent 20 hours plus almost on each one of these parts. So it does take a lot of time and effort to do this, but I do it for you guys, and that I want to express some of my creativity, of course. So let's go to YouTube Analytics and see. These are the 3 different videos, and you can see the light gray area in the graph is my normal views. When I put up a video, it kind of lands within that area. Each 3 of these videos are below that. So they're just not that popular. I know there's a handful of you guys out there that like this stuff and really love it, but overall, I can't monetize the videos. These types of videos probably get fewer views than almost any other type of video on the channel. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. And you guys that say, I love it and thank you for doing this in the comments, man, that means more than you could ever believe that could to me, because of all the work that it takes to do it. But I really can't say thank you enough for watching, for all the positive comments, and supporting me with the channel, and for at least getting close to reaching the goal of 100,000. If I pass it, great. If I don't, okay. It's been an amazing ride. Thank you guys. Together we can pass it and keep going and continue along with the Walking Dead universe. I'm going to be here. I'm going to try to be here. I hope you're here with me. And again, just thank you guys so much for everything. I can't thank you enough. This seems like it's getting really long, so let's continue the discussion down in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more dead stuff.